Wow, sounds like right out of Star Trek. I'm not seeing any guests on my screen, but do you have see any, Zell?
No, looks like just the five of us.
Okay. So that takes care of line 1, 2, and 3. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes for the last meetings?
Yep.
Okay. What's your pleasure?
I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Does anybody care to make a comment on any of those?
Well, it's December 16th, so I have to abstain.
Okay. So Zell, what's your pleasure on that?
Aye.
Ronnie,
Aye.
I will go with it as well. And Walt said he has to abstain, so.
Yeah, and there were meeting minutes for, I should have said December 16th and December 30th.
Right. So,
I'll move to approve those because I was there.
okay. Do I have a second on those?
Yeah.
Okay. Does anybody care to discuss those minutes of those meetings? No comment on them? Zell, what's your pleasure?
Aye.
Ronnie,
Yeah.
Walt,
Aye.
and I will go along with it as well. Did anybody have a chance to put any thought into goals for the upcoming year?
Well, we're going to get to it in the later agenda, but changing the fiscal year would be my first suggestion.
Okay. Do you want it done by the end of this year or just underway?
Well, why don't we table that until we get to either the letter from the town of Thomaston or anything that we're gonna. There's a whole bunch of financial things that we're gonna need to discuss tonight, so I don't exactly know where to slot them.
Okay, we'll just play it by ear. Do you have any other desires for the rest of the year?
Website.
Website, that kind of falls under my category. One of them on my list was better communications.
Right. Yeah.
Completing the construction projects on my list.
There goes number 2 on my list. So,
Number 1.
well, actually, it was number 1, but it's two of a couple. Anything else, Al?
I think also the Eco Maine educational thing that we had to postpone because of Eco Maine had a conflict. I think it'd be great to do that.
Right. Yep.
And then something that when Gordon Page was on the board, we talked about the hazardous waste
Okay.
collection day.
Yep.
I know we talked about, maybe it was going to be expensive, but it would be cool to do that.
Well, yeah, expensive is a relative term. We haven't even looked into it, so we don't know. To my knowledge, nobody's made any inquiries on it. So that will be one thing to get started. Anything else?
So given Paul's experience or some comments that he's made along the way, the creation of a startup kit for new members.
Right.
I think he's, I didn't exactly blow him off, but I said, well, I spent a whole bunch of hours with Jan Gaudio, so I didn't need a startup kit because he gave me all the documents and went over them, and we were colleagues and friends anyway. So, but if you don't have that kind of connection and you come in and you're cold, you're at a disadvantage because
Right.
you don't know where to go and who to talk to. So he raised an absolute gap in our process.
Right, yeah. Heather, do we ask for all that information back, or does those members keep those?
What, the binders?
The binders, bylaws, or anything like that?
They're supposed to pass them on to the new member.
So I guess this is more of a work session, but probably right off the top of my head, I would say that we probably should have 1 or 2 binders, spare binders, bylaws and local agreements already printed and ready to go. So by the first meeting, we can at least hand them that. That's a good start, at least. We don't even have that at this point.
Yeah, we do.
Really?
Yeah, I made up an extra one.
Okay, but that's now, correct?
What's that?
That's now, correct?
Now,
Right.
but I made it up.
A month or 2 ago, we didn't even have that, so that's good. Ronnie, what do you got?
Finish the project and better communications.
Anything else?
No, that's just about it.
So for the most part, we're pretty much all on the same book and page. Does anybody else want to add anything before I move on? No? Under communications, start right off the bat. Heather, we got any progress on the webpage at all, or is it pretty much at a standstill?
Right now it was postponed because of the binders and stuff.
Yeah, we haven't been so helpful with our comments either, but it's been pretty busy this month, so.
Yeah, me too.
So at a standstill at the moment.
Right. Because now I gotta do the audit, so.
Okay, well, it's not a big deal. I mean, it's needed, but it's not earth shattering, so we can pick away at that and get it moving.
Yeah, just send me your lists, okay?
Yeah, if I can. I'm not, like I said, I'm not a guru at that, so.
Just what you'd like to see on the website.
Well, I know, but I'm not really up to speed on what they put on these things.
I owe her as well.
Okay, so Skip generally takes care of any personnel stuff from the committee. But Walt, have you got anything for that? Because you're on that committee. Is there anything been going on, or?
Yeah, Dave's going on vacation on Wednesday, and John has COVID.
Yes, he does, and yes, they are.
And Gary, is that,
Yeah,
and Ms. Jakes, I've forgotten her first name,
Deborah.
Deborah.
Deborah. So they claim that they're willing and able and psyched to run the place from Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday. And I wonder about that. Not that I've found them to do all this all the stuff fine, but I don't know. What do you guys think?
Well, Skip is due back the day that he leaves, so they're kind of overlapping one another. So Skip was our interim facility manager when we didn't have one, and in the absence of one such as this. So I think, anything that comes up, those guys have questions, Skip can answer them or handle them. If not, they come through me. Right now where Skip is out, I am filling in as the liaison type deal. So,
Okay.
so the question came in the other day about closing on Saturday, and I left it up to Dave. I says, we've left it to the facility manager in the past. I'm not saying no, but it is a busy day. Just play it by ear, see what the weather conditions are. I mean, if it's whiteout conditions, I'm sure nobody's going to be coming through that gate, or very few. So there's no point in risking your guys' safety and health and life trying to get back home for nothing.
Yeah, I put the notice on our website and our listserv that I showed you the other day.
So, and I did contact the town of Al's Head, let them know that it may be closed, depending on the weather conditions. So they've made a notice of it. So that's where
It was kind of funny. The guy who runs the new guy, the interim runner of the demo dump in South Thomaston, asked the select board what he should do. And John Spear said, follow the guidance of the transfer station,
Oh, no.
which was the answer that they didn't want. The answer they wanted was close the demo dump on Saturday.
Yeah. One thing I did remember, and it was tonight, while I was sitting here trying to catch the latest and greatest on the weather, cancellations are coming through, and there are transfer stations that were coming through. They were already canceled, and I go, damn, over the previous years, we posted those on the local TV stations. And I didn't.
Camden's already cold.
So I forgot to tell Dave that we might want to get a hold of those. So kind of late now, but moving forward in the future, that's kind of needs to get done. Again, that falls under our communications line. Hopefully, when we get our website set up and running, I mean, we can post that ourselves. But that's not the only place that they should be able to find out that information. Anything else on the personnel, Walt?
Nope.
Okay. Does anybody else have anything for personnel? Anything they need to pass on to the committee? Which right now is a committee of one. Okay. So I guess we're moving into line item number 8A, and that's the report on our facility walkthrough and our recommendations. And Zell, you had the notes, so you might want to probably just run through this.
Yeah, absolutely. So on January 10th, the 5 of us, Scott Johnson, Bruce, Paul, David, and myself, we met at the facility and we walked through Scott's concerns that he had expressed with the existing facility. This is over in the commercial hauling area. And I just sort of listed what we had walked through. The first one was the sort of walkway beside the hopper. There's a broken wooden railing, and we looked at it, and there's a chain that can be put across to keep people out from there. And so the 3 of us on the committee asked David to keep that chain across there to make sure no one has access to that. So that is now, no one is able to go there. No members of the public, no haulers, nobody in there. There's also the concern with the sill at the door to the little building on the top. There appears to be some failure there that we looked at. Around the side over towards sort of wetland area, there are these wood guardrails on top of the retaining wall that are broken. There also, the concrete wall, retaining wall that's next to it has some cracking that we looked at. Number 5, underneath the little structure where the hopper attaches to it, there appears to be some settling and with that structure. And then we talked about there's sort of this narrow area between the compactor and the retaining wall that is too narrow for most people to pass through there. So we were talking about in the new facility, making sure that there is available space there. And then there was electrical concerns with some of the hydraulic lines. There, obviously, we've talked about some rodent issues we've had there, which we talked about. The rodent issues are more managed now, and but where there are all the electrical lines for the hydraulics underneath there, there's concern that perhaps there might be rodent issues, and because of the quantity of electricity that passes through there, that would, there's concern there. And so what Scott asked for was that we have a licensed professional review these concerns and provide a letter talking about the safety of the facility. He was concerned for his safety and his staff's safety when being there. And so Bruce talked to Chris Snowdeal, our engineer for the new facility, and he estimated 1,500 to 2,000 for this type of inspection, and that there was an engineer on his staff who had their credentials in both structural and electrical that could come and do that study for this cost. Also, we, the three of us, Bruce, Paul, and myself, we talked about the design of the proposed facility. And Paul had a question about the scale location, which Bruce and I, the three of us, kind of talked about how we've talked about the scale location in the past with Chris and looked at a few different options. And that's why we settled on the location where it's currently planned. We were also talking about the cans for collecting the cardboard recycling. Had some ideas there to maybe improve that. And then we talked about any sort of outstanding questions that there might be about the proposed design. We discussed, Paul had a question about the plywood Vantac specifications. And so, yeah, we kind of just went over safety concerns, potential concerns with the design. And, following that, Bruce, and Paul and I did have I don't know if you want me to add this, Bruce, but we did have a follow-up discussion about it. And the three of us felt like, based on the tour and our further discussions, that this inspection of the facility is something we should go ahead and do. So, obviously we're looking for full board approval, but we were going to recommend that this evening, that we have this engineer from Haley Ward do this inspection. And obviously this inspection is of the existing facility. So it's not saying that, this inspection needs to happen before the project can start, but they can happen concurrently. Is that
Any
good, Bruce?
discuss-
What do you, anything to add?
Well, I do, but I was gonna let somebody else have comment. If they have something they want to ask or say.
Yeah, I did. and Now I've lost my train of thought. It's a drag getting old, I'll tell you. Mick Jagger will tell you that at every concert. Give me a minute to try to recoup what I was trying to ask.
It's a lot of information to digest there in a short period of time.
All right, continue. I'm sure this will come to me probably in the middle of the night when I wake up to see how much snow we've got.
So Ron, why don't I start with you? You got any comments on this?
Well, I know last two Mondays ago, I had to go down and unhook it for John because John and Dean couldn't fit in between number one. So I know how tight it is. I just barely got in there. And I know how tight it is for them guys to get in there because they're bigger than I am. So.
Yeah.
And I've been down there and I've seen them rats and stuff down there. I know what they're like when I used to work with Scott. So.
So anything else you want to comment?
No.
So we did have the tour on it, and we did look at things over there. Well, what troubles me is the fact that, and I have given a yes vote to this inspection, but I gotta be honest with you, I'm very reluctant to give that yes vote. I feel we're doing this inspection because of liability issues, not because of necessity. And I'll explain that further. An accusation or a comment was made that there were life safety issues out there that were led to believe that they were physically seen. So now that statement is out there, I feel that we're legally liable to do this inspection It's not any due to any condition out there that is there present at the time. Scott did point out the catwalk up the top by can number 2. I did step out on that catwalk and it was very spongy. Scott kind of laid into me a little bit about that, and he wanted to kind of be aggressive about it, and he was poking and prodding at railings, and the railings were all afloat. Now he looked at me and says, "Does that look repaired?" And I says, "No, it does not." And I was in total agreement with him that thing is a safety hazard. At that day, we did agree to chain that off, but my concerns is the chain is removable. Anybody can just unhook it and walk through. And that catwalk generally is for commercial haulers to go down there and poke the refuse down back into the hopper. And if they don't know exactly what's going on, there was nothing actually stopping them from dropping the chain and walking out there. So Scott's reply was, if they drop the chain and go out there, that's their problem. It is to a degree, but it still can be done. So Skip and I had discussed this after the fact, and we've asked that catwalk to be removed entirely so that they can't go out there. There's no chance of them to go out there and fall because of this catwalk. There's no point in it being there when it's a danger. So that's going to be remedied. They went down and they pointed out, just generally pointed out and discussed that there could be issues inside that area with mice chewing on the wires or the hoses. They didn't know that to be a fact. He did point out the turnbuckle. That's turnbuckle has been there since 1983. You know, it hasn't hurt anybody yet. Maybe that's a poor reasoning, but the fact remains it's been there for 39 years. Is that something that we need to rush right out and fix? Or is that cost for a $2,000 inspection? Not in my eyes, it isn't. To my knowledge, I am the only person in recent days that have been in that area to look that area over. To my knowledge, I've asked around. I was told Mr. Rosin did not go in that area during that day with the walkthrough with Scott. And I was told he didn't believe Scott did that either. Scott has been in there in past times, but he hasn't been in there recently. But I physically walked right into that area, and I looked those lines over fairly well. I mean, granted, I didn't inspect them inch by inch by inch, but I did go in and look over them, and I did find there's chafing gear on some of the conduits where they could be chafed. So I checked the chafing gear out, and the chafing gear seems to be intact. It's not excessively worn. The conduit under the chafing gear is intact. I scoped out a lot of the conduit. Like I said, I didn't run my hand or walk right up the whole inch of it, but I did sight it out. I didn't see any cracks or breaks or any chew marks in there where a rat had chewed a hole straight through the conduit. I do recognize there are some hangers that hold the conduit into place. They are missing. Excuse me. So the conduit does kind of vibrate up and down. I did a quick check of all the moving parts down there to see if the guards were in place and intact, and they are. I looked at some of the hoses to look for weather checking, splits, cracks, abrasions, chew marks from rats, and I didn't see them. So again, I didn't physically do a complete inspection on this because it was screeching cold. But what time I did spend in there, it was about 10 minutes. I did not see anything in there that would really warrant this. If somebody's concerns, somebody's worries, yes. But I'm kind of wondering if it isn't a stall tactic in a way to drive our budget so high and deplete our budget, deplete the money that we have for the construction.
Well, I'm not so sure about that, but I mean, I'm back to where you think my starting point might have been from the get-go, and that is, I'd like to see I'd like to see the record of every OSHA inspection and anybody else inspections since 2019, and I hope we have those records. The only one that I remember, of course, is the OSHA shows up, and the next thing I know, I can't walk up the steps to the compactor anymore, even though I'm old. The good thing was that Reggie Reggie made the attendants take my garbage and throw it in there. If the premier government inspection agency has done any work there, I'd like to see what they did. And I'm not disputing any of the observations by anyone. I just want to see what's on the record before
I believe that-
before I make a decision. On the other hand, you know, politically, what we're being asked to do is CYA. You
Right.
know, it's cover our ass.
Right.
And, you know, that happens a lot and it never is free. I bet if we put an ad out for, you know, I want an engineer and an electrician to cover my ass, probably get a better bid than CES. You know, they lick their chops. This is called change orders for them. Scope creep.
The best of I can remember, that the latest, I think the last inspection was like 2 or 3 years ago. Reggie had his crew going at it, doing a bunch of minor repairs. There were a lot of like little handrails, steps, stuff like that that were missing. I don't remember anything major coming in for repairs.
No,
Now that speaks to the more deficiencies on the part of OSHA, I would think, than anything we're doing wrong. Heather, do you know where those records are kept, if they're kept at all?
I never received anything.
Interesting. So again, I
What Reggie had.
you know, I'd like to see what's there. The rundown of things that I've heard, it's kind of interesting that you know, Scott and Paul raised these things in non-specific terms, and you guys, and especially Zell's documentation, is specific. So the fact that we've done that, and it's on the record, says that somebody's going to say, what are you doing about Zell's comment number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4? I think we need an answer to that. But this is all in the context of the fact that as we sit here today, we can't pay for this project. That'll come up later.
Yeah, I would agree. I think seeing the OSHA documents would be huge. So, you know, I think maybe I would recommend we table this until we look at those OSHA documents. And just to Walt's point about how specific they were, you know, I think, you know, we tried to kind of go through and look at everything really specific so that, you know, we could have a full list of it so we could really understand it. And so, you know, and I believe Paul did do a audio recording of the tour as well. So I think that would be available if anyone wanted to listen to that also.
Good.
Anything else on this topic? Okay, so a motion has been made to table the vote until we see the OSHA inspections, or can try to look at those. Do I have a second on that?
Second.
Okay. Zell, are you in favor of tabling?
Yes, I am.
Ron,
yes,
Walter,
Yes,
and I will go along with that too.
I almost always support my motions.
Just want to be thorough. It only stands to reason you wouldn't have made the motion if you weren't going to stand behind it, right?
Well, I'm known to do them just to have the discussion.
Very true.
Who's seconding?
Ronnie did. Okay, so the next item was to discuss the Blaine construction contract. Is there any comments on that contract?
Has Patrick had an opportunity to review that, Bruce?
That I do not know. Patrick has been fallen ill upon coming back to the States. Last I knew he was working from home. I did forward those documents to him Wednesday. So whether he's reviewed them at home or not, I do not know yet. But he does have them.
Okay, so what do we do about the fact that between the capital improvement fund and the contingency fund, we're $45,000 short of meeting the requirements of that contract?
Okay. I did have a thought on that. Zell did pass out or email out a information on a grant from the DEP. And I believe when I read that, it went from 1,000 to 40,000. And was that correct, Zell?
Yes, I think it was 1,000, 10,000 to 40,000, or no,
Okay,
I think you're right, 1,000. Mhm.
So, you know, before Skip left, I did have a chance to run that by him, and he said that he keeps forgetting about grants. There are people out there that write these grants within our community, I'm sure. From what I know about grants, which is very little, but all your I's and T's have got to be crossed and dotted. They're very particular on this stuff.
Mhm.
Over the past years in the fire service and emergency services, a number of departments were trying to get grants from the feds and the state and failed miserably. To which Rockland, for instance, sent a couple guys out to take training and learn how to write these grants. And once they completed the class and was pretty up to speed with it, they were landing grants right and left. So having the right person, the right individual do this makes the world of difference. It makes the difference of whether you get the grant or you don't. And to my knowledge, maybe I might be wrong, but I don't think there's any of us right here right now that are really up to speed on grants. I've asked this question a couple times. So it'd really be nice if we could locate somebody in the 3 towns that is up to speed with this and maybe can get us some grants to cover this overture. Any thoughts?
I like the fact that you're walking down that path. On the surface, Zell, I didn't read it in great detail. Would our project qualify for that particular set of grants? But there are others, I know.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's talking about infrastructure, so that would apply.
Oh, okay.
Diverting things from landfills, so anything to do with recycling, which, maybe, I guess. I think there's a potential that it certainly could apply. But obviously that's not a given, and their max is 40,000. So, it doesn't fully cover that difference.
The other thing too is I know MEMIC has sent out on occasions that they will give out grants as well. How high they go, I'm not sure, and they probably don't go real high. But a lot of that is due to safety issues and stuff like that. And this renovation definitely falls in the safety category. I mean, we're revamping a lot of things, getting away stuff that's obsolete. I mean, there's safety devices underneath there that are grandfathered and they're fine, but to put in new machinery today, they're far safer. They have better devices. So we could possibly, brand new guardrails and stuff like that would apply to those grants. So we might want to check into that. Whether the feds have got anything out there is another question. I mean, we can always ask.
So I just had a question. Walter, when did the discrepancy kind of come out, that 45,000 and change?
Remember when we first got the 1290,
Yes.
like September, October,
Okay. Yep.
and we did a back of the envelope? How do we hit that number?
Mm-hmm.
And the back of the envelope was what was in the capital fund, what was in the contingency fund. And I'm not sure if I thought the target was 120 instead of 1290.
Okay.
Or if there was some higher number that I was applying during that back of the envelope session to our availability. So it's a mystery to me. We'd have to go back through the minutes or I don't know when we restarted Zooming to see. I know this was before Paul, so Gordon was there. And again, this was like a back of the envelope. How do we hit 1-2? And all I can think of is that I was thinking 1200 rather than 1290.
Mhm. And so when we met in the beginning of December when we met in person, I thought we had discussed, we kind of relooked at those numbers before we had voted to move forward with it. You're saying it was before that. I was just trying to put it together in my head about when that was, but
Yeah, because it was, I'm pretty sure that in my November select board meeting, I prepped my board by saying, in order to meet the demands of this project, we will exhaust our PERC funding, our loan funding, and our contingency fund. That the three of those added up to right on the number.
okay.
And what I was waiting for and I didn't get was, well, that doesn't include any unexpected. And there's going to be unexpected. So that makes the situation even worse.
Mhm, yeah.
Because if somebody rained $45,000 on us tomorrow, the 1290, I'm pretty confident that this project's not going to come in at 1290. Kind of begs the question about the enclosure building rather than Paul's suggestion that it not be an enclosure.
Yeah, I guess.
That's a redesign or a re-engineer or whatever. But so I'm very concerned about the fact of going forward with something that we can't pay for.
Yeah, I would, seeing these numbers today, I certainly agree. I think we have to have a certain amount available for sort of the unknowns with this project. So I don't really know what to say exactly, except for, I think perhaps the suggestion of, rethinking what this project is, or, I know we've come a long ways to get here, but the reality is when 6 years ago, no one could have predicted the pandemic and what the effects to the construction industry and material costs would be. And so there's just sort of a reality about where we are right now in the world that makes this project more out of reach. But I did like, Walter, that you included the sort of original estimate from 2015-16, which was the 1 to the 1.2 million. So I think, we are over that, and we're kind of over that, the difference.
But when Wood came in well under that, I was dancing in the end zone. I went to my board and I waved that thing in front of them and said, look at how smart we are. Well, I was smart then, but I'm not so smart now. I think that I was thinking not to do this earlier today, but now I'm thinking that we should do this, which is to have the 3-town select board informational reading and lay out the fact that we're between a rock and a hard place. We had a fully funded project, and because it was fully funded, one of the things that we did was go buy a scale that wasn't in the project, by the way, but was a high priority for a lot of influential, shall I say, people. And actually, sets us up somewhat for the future. And then we had delays, and we had COVID, and we had Thomaston Planning Board, jerking us around, which is what my select board would like to blame all this on, by the way. Here we are, and just put it out there and see what any of them, all of us are smarter than any of us. So what do they think? Because, what most of them are thinking about is a 24% increase in the assessment. And Kara George is sort of kind of right. I can't, to quote her exactly, I can't help but think that the renovation doesn't play a large part in this, the increase in the assessment. Well, there are only two things in the budget that impact from the project that impact the assessment. The debt service, which is less this year than it was last year, and the $50,000 refund or reinvestment in the contingency. And we can say that, yes, that is directly related to the fact that the project drains the contingency. So those two things actually affect the budget. So she's right about that, but I think, she probably thinks that it's much worse than that.
Mm.
I got to agree with Walt. I do think a lot of people are drawing the conclusion that where this has never happened before, such a large increase from our board, just so happens to coincide with the time that we're about ready to pull the trigger on a construction project.
Right.
And I think just naturally they're drawing the conclusion that that's where the problem is. I mentioned that to Walt some days ago when we were discussing how we were going to deliver this to the town of Owl's Head. Concerns that a lot of people are thinking that. It really isn't. I mean, there are some, like he pointed out, there are some lines that did, but you figure out the tax dollars on 50,000, how much is it really costing you? So it had a very little impact. Most of it is overruns due to the world today, the way it is. And I do agree with Walt. I think we should still hold this meeting. They should be aware of where we're at, how we got here, what our thoughts are, or how we're going to proceed from here. Everybody's complaining about a budget that's so high, but then again, I mean, they may come out of the woodwork and surprise us and decide that, this project's a worthwhile project, and we're going to scrounge around and find an extra 100,000. That may happen. I don't know. I seriously doubt it, but who knows? Until we ask them or we tell them, we don't know.
So Bruce and Zell, I had two reasons for asking you guys to do the walkthrough. One was to kind of cool the jets on the discontent and the contention that we had on the board. And the other was if we had life safety issues, we should know about them. One thing we should one question I have had that hasn't been answered yet is, of all the issues that have been identified, how many of them will be corrected or mitigated if the project happened tomorrow and you did that same walkthrough? Would the findings have been materially different?
Yes, every aspect of excuse me, life safety issues over there, or even the minor issues, whether they're life safety or not, they're all going to go away. All of it. The cracked walls. Well, this was before your time on the board, but I had done a presentation to the three towns. That was the first of the meetings. And we did quite an extensive slideshow just showing the deficiencies over the facility. And that wall was one of them. That wooden retaining wall was one of them. for what it's worth, they're not any better. In fact, they're getting worse. The hole, I have a picture on this computer, the hole in the threshold going into the control room. Well, as of that walkthrough the other day, it's still there. Is it any worse? I don't really think so. Of course, that building's going to be gone. That retainer wall is going to be gone. All the steel and electrical and hydraulic units down underneath there, gone. They're all going to be gone. They're going to be replaced with new stuff. So everything is going to be remedied.
Yeah,
Plus, we got safety issues, improved safety issues. Truck won't be sitting out in the middle of Buttermilk Lane, and when he loads can number one, because everything's going to be shifted down. The metal container is not going to be in competition with one of the solid waste containers. That's going to be off by itself. We're separating the big trucks from the small cars more. So there are safety improvements involved with this as well.
So that's ammunition for making the case to the select boards. Listen, we have an overage, but so does everybody else on the planet right now, based on what's happened over the last 3 years. And by the way, we might come to you guys for to reach even further into your pockets next year. But here's why this is important. And these issues that are safety issues and efficiency issues are the same ones that this project addressed 4 years ago. And guess what? When you have a problem, it usually doesn't get better over time. If nothing is done, it usually gets worse. And that's exactly what's happened.
Yes, Ron.
I've had a lot to say, and I'm going to shut up.
Ron.
What happens if we delay the scales going in? How much of a difference would that cost?
I don't think it would be a savings, because that's all incorporated into the bid. And granted, yes, you wouldn't be doing that, but they're there. They're doing it. They're doing the site work. They're all ready to go. So would you try to get the earthwork and stuff done and not do any concrete and not set the scales? Possibly, but it might only save you $5,000-6,000, maybe $10,000. In the meantime, the earthwork is unprotected, deteriorating. You got to pay the company to mobilize again, to come in to bring their equipment in. Concrete will surely go up in that amount of time. The question has arisen about, does the installation of the scales included in the price? Yes, it does.
Okay.
Problem being is, if you postpone that by 2 years, that price of installation is going to change.
It's going up anyway, yes.
Actually, right now, if you was to buy that same scale again, first of all, you're going to be a year getting it. 2, the price has gone up significantly. And 3, the cost of installation has gone up big time. One of the things this board did that was prudent and smart, there was many things that this, in my opinion, this board has done that was prudent and smart, but this is one of them. We paid for those compactors ourselves. We did not include that into the contract budget. We paid for the scales ourselves. Them were bought and paid for. If we had included that in with the bid, you would have had a 20% increase on top of that, because all general contractors will increase their cost by 20%. The subcontractor goes out and bids, say, cement work, and it's $10,000. The general contractor is going to increase that 20%. That's how they make their money. So you're going to pay 20% more on that concrete just because you went through a general contractor. So we did not. We purchased them ourselves, saved ourselves some money. Of course, it's all gone now. Whatever we saved has been burned up because of the COVID and delays. But
No, I was just wondering how we could save some money. But
yeah, it's a good question. I mean, we really need to take some looks at things, but
would it make sense to, and does it alleviate any of the safety, whatever concerns? What if we installed the compactors in the existing footprint, since we already own them?
install them in the existing footprint. You mean not putting a building or anything on it, just install them right there,
Right, just
using the same retainer wall, same everything.
like for like.
Okay. I'm sure you're gonna have a huge snip.
One of the things Scott said was, these compactors are junk and they should be thrown away yesterday.
Well, yes,
Well,
that's
I wasn't there on the
accurate.
16th, but I read the minutes.
That statement is somewhat accurate. I mean, the reason this all got started was these are very old compactors. A lot of the parts are obsolete. So
Right.
they've been mixing and matching pieces all along. Some of the dangers that the expert were explaining to us when we conceived this whole plan is, you know, you don't want to do these things in stages of Mickey Mouse and piecing things together, because lots of times things don't play nice with others when you do that. It's better to do that as one straight unit. Everything's designed to work well together. It's all matched up. You know, that's why we chose to do this. Some of the issues we're having is because you got a very old compactor and certain parts don't. One of the cans, I believe it was number 2, literally fetches up when the ram goes in, because we had to do some repairs to it that weren't quite right. So now every time it goes in, it has a tendency to fetch, and it's putting stress on the machines and tearing things. Them are some examples of what's going on and what happens when you mix and match and just fudge things together.
Good answer.
Commonly known as a Band-Aid operation.
Yep, I totally agree. And I just raised it because if I can think of that question, somebody else will too.
Well, absolutely. But you got to remember, you got a retaining wall that is crumbling and collapsing. Paul said it could be repaired. Yes, it can be repaired, but you know, it's not laid out well. If we go for tit for tat and just change the compactors out, put new ones in, there's no guarantee they're actually going to line up with what we have. We may have to make some modifications to the area of the wall. 2, that does nothing for the metal container that is in direct competition with can number 2, compactor number 2. Also, it does nothing for Scott Johnson's front of his truck sticks, cutting off one part of the highway when he removes can number 1. That still will remain a safety issue. It still blocks traffic. We still have issues with, you know, cars and pickups and whatnot going to the metal container when a big compactor such as Ronnie's tries to back up to can number 2. So we've looked at all that stuff, and we've tried to carefully plan all this out and eliminate a lot of that stuff.
Okay. All right.
Does that answer your question, Walt?
Yeah, and I said I was going to shut up 10 minutes
No,
ago.
actually, Walt, I'm glad you bring it up, because you're right. Playing devil advocate sometimes works out very well. Anything else?
Just a quick note on the scale. Ronnie, I thought about that too with the scale. Like, we could try to sell the scales. It's, you know, as Bruce was saying, the cost has gone up and there's just shortage. But I think one of the things on the budget that has really gone up is the overweight fees. So that seems like an important part, just because it's going to continue to cost us more. But if there was another solution to like use a scale somewhere else so we didn't have to do one, I wondered if we might be able to just sell our scale to someone else and go without it.
Okay, just to follow up on that, there is no other scales in the general vicinity. The closest one is 2 in Dragon. One is in the aggregate and the other one is in the quarry. If you know anything about the Dragon products and stuff over there, lots of times they're so backlogged, their trucks are sitting out in the street, waiting to get in or out. So they're not going to be willing to come, even for a fee, they're not going to be willing to do this. They might do it in a pinch, but they're not going to want to do it on a regular basis. And you certainly don't want to drive down to the main quarry to get weighed. And that could take you hours. We hauled for a company at one time, and we hauled material to Dragon, and they had to weigh our trucks. And my truck sat there sometimes an hour and a half waiting to get on that scale because it was so backlogged with cement trucks going out. We couldn't get on there. The only other scale that I know of anywhere that close is up on North End, and that's a private scale. It's owned by Steel Pro.
Okay.
So that's not practical. Zella's absolutely right. You could sell the scale, and I guarantee you could get exactly what you paid for it. And it would sell quickly because, like I said, those who want a scale are going to be waiting a year to get a scale. This one is here. It's ready to go. But do you want to do that? It's costing us money on these overweights. We're going to go for a new trucking contract this year. We've got to start getting that ready and get it out to bid for the following year. Now Scott has the option to change that in any way he wants. I mean, it's all fair game again. But not only that, but Scott's not the only one bidding on this, I'm sure. So who's to say that the overweights are going to remain the same? They could get even worse. And we sell that scale, we got no protection, none. I know it's been brought up many times, and then people are fearful that we're going to be charging using the scale as an income base and charging for the material coming through there. That's not our intent right now, but there may come a day that has to be. And if we don't have the scale, we tied the future board's hands. Anything else?
No, let me, so are we lumping the contract, the informational meeting, and some other things together as really one expanded agenda item, and now we have to, confirm or not what we're going to do? My feelings is that we go ahead with the three. My feeling is that we do the 3-town and informational meeting, and we don't sign the contract until after we've done that.
Oh, absolutely. I agree with that. The only reason that contract is at Patrick's right now is because we can't afford to have any more delays. If we were not to send that to Patrick and we went through all this meeting and stuff and everything just started to fall into place, the towns are good, they're happy with our explanations, the building permit is issued, and Patrick hasn't done this report yet or read this contract, then we could be sitting there waiting for that. Just because he's reviewed it don't mean we have to sign it. He's just giving us an okie dokie saying everything's glorious and fine or not.
Okay.
Then that was my intent. Then we would have the 3-town meeting, or we'd have simultaneously, but either way, the meeting would get done before the contract's signed. And bring these people up to speed. Whoever wants to be brought up to speed. That was my thought. And then if everything goes well and plays out right, and right now it's the major hang up now is financing. If we can work that out and things fall into place, we should be ready to go.
We're on the same page.
Absolutely.
Comrade Chairman.
Anything else? So we're down to trying to pick a date. I don't know, but I heard when I sat in the South Thomaston selectmen's meeting, Friday night seemed to be a good night for them, and it seems to be a good night for everybody else. What's your thoughts?
You're talking about Friday the 4th?
Any Friday for that matter.
Oh,
I mean,
any Friday, okay.
if the 4th works, then that's fine. But it's kind of short notice to try to get everybody together. I mean, if the public truly wants to attend this and have any say in this, we should give them at least 10 days notice, I would think.
So that would be like Friday the 11th,
Friday the 11th. Or
2 weeks from tonight.
I mean, I know we want to get it done, but doesn't that seem a reasonable, logical thing to at least give them time to?
Oh, yeah.
Plus, that gives us time to check with. What's your thoughts with Thomaston? Is there any issues that you would know of on a Friday night with Thomaston, Zell?
I don't think so. I think someone on the select board mentioned that they thought the meeting tonight was a 3-town meeting, and they said, what, a Friday night? But I think the reality is that's why we get compensated so well being on the select board. Sometimes they're Friday night meetings. So yeah, I mean, there's no conflict with the schedule. So I think that's fine. If that works best for everyone, it seems like there's so many other meetings going on in every municipality that why not? Let's do Friday, the 11th.
Okay. So I will put that forth with my town. Starting Monday, I guess, because that would be the first chance they're open. Well, actually, I could send the emails to selectmen anytime for that matter.
And yeah, and so to just confirm, obviously, we're doing that by Zoom at 6 o'clock. And, you know, Bruce and I have talked about a little bit, kind of assembling documents to have there for it. But do we want to kind of go over kind of an agenda for that? I think going through the history of the project, you know, starting at 2008 to today might be helpful, especially for newer members. And the financials, obviously, we've talked about, but probably what we want to do is put together a packet of documents that we would distribute to everyone before the meeting, just so, I don't know, I'm just thinking out loud, just so everyone has an opportunity to look at those things. And then we would kind of walk through those same documents at the meeting.
Yeah, it makes sense. To have something before a person to review and look at, even just to follow through, is a big help to them to understand stuff versus somebody trying to describe it. Sometimes they can't get a mental picture. This is right up your alley, Zell. Your little models and your presentations. I find that people have a limited imagination, and when they try to put a picture in their minds, and that's where the designers and stuff come in. They can give them a nice picture, and they can actually see it. So I think having those documents in front of people is a lot better.
Walter has his hand up. Yeah.
Yes, he does. Yes, Walt.
So my recollection is the original, or not the original, but maybe not the original, but the first presentation I went to, which was in South Thomaston with all three select boards and you guys and Chris, there was some pictures or some PowerPoints or there were some things in that presentation which made it clear to me what was being done.
Right. I still have them. That's what I
Okay.
was referring to earlier.
All right, some of those I think very important. Here's where we started. Here's the vision. And by the way, the vision, unless we change between now and then, hasn't changed. You know, we're going to relocate things, and we're going to move the hill, and we're going to put new compactors in and close it and all that kind of stuff. And oh, by the way, it's interesting. It was estimated to be a $2 million project back then, and it still is.
Right. That's what I was getting at earlier, that we have done a remarkable job. That this was 4 years or so ago, almost 5 now, if it isn't 5. Inflation as it was to start with could have thrown that over. But then we got the COVID craziness that's gone on, and we're still pretty much right where we projected it to be. Which finds kind of seeks to amaze me how people still are grumbling about it. I feel that this board and previous boards have done a remarkable job to keep this reasonable and shown some responsibility for the price tag to the taxpayers.
Do you think we'll want to invite Chris to that meeting, since he's
We certainly can and probably should, because sure enough, somebody's going to ask a question out there that's got some technicalities that we don't really know. And we're trying to put our best foot forward for these people. We certainly don't want to have to come back and tell them we're going to have an answer later, or we're going to hold another meeting.
No, there's going to be somebody that's going to want to play stump the chump with us and with him. So we need to have him there, in my opinion.
Do you think it would be helpful to have a walk through at the facility so anyone could see it? I mean, obviously it's always available for people to see, but did that happen at the last meeting, like at the facility?
No, it did not. We met in South Thomaston, and we pretty much give them a run through. We give them the financial status of how we thought we were going to go about financing this. Chris Snowdeal was there to answer any technical questions and stuff. I mean, it was pretty thorough. I mean, we took some pretty hard questions. Somebody from Thomaston asked us if we had looked at numerous different things in And if this was the only plan, we did tell them that we had looked at various different ways to do things. And at this time, this was the best plan going. There were some tough financial questions back then. Everybody asked the appropriate questions, and I felt they were answered. But actually for a walkthrough, no. You know, I suppose it could be done. We'd probably want to pick a Monday or a Friday prior to that and have somebody there so that nobody's just going willy-nilly all around the place. If it was just one of us board members or even Dave, just so that somebody come through, give them a time that they could come through the gates, say 8 to 12. If they really want to do a walkthrough, and somebody there, just make sure they don't go into places they shouldn't or get hurt.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't know if it would be helpful. Like, obviously, I wouldn't need it, but maybe someone would be interested in it. We could, I mean, maybe if someone asks about it, we can make it available, but we don't have to plan on it necessarily.
Okay. Well, we could put it out there and see how much interest there is. If there's a half a dozen people that want to see it, we could try to get the half a dozen people there at the same time,
Exactly.
like a Monday
Right.
morning.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good stone to not leave unturned.
Right.
Good, Zell. Good suggestion.
Okay. Yeah, so,
I mean, to discuss the layout of this could take a little bit of time, and we've already got a pretty cramped schedule. So I don't know if you want to maybe do a quick Zoom meeting somewhere, some other night prior to this and try to put this together.
I would agree to have, I would think that we'd want to have a single meeting focused on just this item.
Yeah, I mean, it could be an hour and a half meeting, just real quick. I'm pretty sure I could email that package to you, Zell, for that with all the pictures and stuff.
yeah, that would be great.
And when's Skip coming back? So let's make sure that he's here.
He will be here. He's supposed to be back the 2nd, the same day that Dave is leaving.
Paul will be here back on Monday or Sunday or Monday. He'll be snowed in Portland for the weekend.
Hey, you know, it's better to be snowed in and safe and sound somewhere.
Not exactly, not a bad place to be snowed in.
Definitely.
The only place that I wouldn't want to be snowed in, and that could happen to me, is on the road. Okay, so if we're done with that, we'll move on to number 9, which is the facility manager's report. Has everybody had a chance to read those?
Yep.
Or read it? Does anybody have any discussion on that? I will say one thing about it though. Surprisingly enough, there was only one overweight, and it wasn't grossly overweight either.
Great.
Any other comments on it?
Nope.
So everybody happy with it?
Does David not have his credit card yet? I feel like we talked about that. Was it just a document that someone needed to sign to get that?
No, we needed his social security number and his date of birth.
Okay.
You got half of it.
I got half of,
I haven't been able to get a hold of him for his date of birth, so.
Okay, I just thought it might be, I see his like charges for all things that are very reasonable. And I just thought it might be easier for him to have that. But,
oh, for sure.
yeah.
Well, it wasn't quite as much as he thought, but you'll see it on my report, so,
Oh, you did the math for him? Okay,
yeah.
that looks good to me.
Alrighty. Well, we don't really need to vote to accept it. It's just acknowledge we read it and answer any questions. So how about the bookkeeper's report? Has everybody had a chance to read that? Any comments on it or questions for Heather?
Well, so at the end of, if you scroll down through it, what Heather has done is go line item by line item on the expense categories and shown the difference between last year and this year. So valuable for you, Bruce, when you appear for your inquisition at the select board meeting.
Absolutely.
Because from what I understand, they're used to seeing that format.
Yeah.
So thank you for doing that, Heather.
Actually, just give it a thought. I probably should print off 3 copies of that so that I can hand those right to the selectmen that night.
Exactly.
Like we was just saying, we can tell them about it, but
Or send it a day ahead of time.
I can actually forward it in an email for that matter and have it in plenty of time.
Heather, is this a manual thing that you do in QuickBooks? Is this a QuickBooks budget or some other program?
Excel.
It's Excel?
Yeah.
Ah, interesting. All right, so I'm gonna make a suggestion about the colors, but let me think about that. So to me, the
I
colors
think it's-
bad
think
should
it's
be
a way to
red and
highlight.
good should be green.
So any other comments? Yes?
Oh, sorry, on the amount to reimburse David McNeil, I was just looking at that, because you mentioned it, Heather. It looks like the 50 feet, 55, 35 Walmart supplies.
2
was
of them
not-
added together. There was 2 of them added together.
Oh, I see, okay,
So they were in there twice. Yeah.
okay, so I will, make a motion for Heather to reimburse the, David McNeil for the amount of $189.42.
Do I have a second?
I'll second because I need to get him a credit card. So that way I don't have to do this.
Oh, you're gonna get in the credit card, not the corporate then.
No. I'm the one who goes to First National, whatever the place is, and because they think I'm important.
But you are.
Yeah, of course you are, Walter.
Zell, what's your pleasure on that?
Aye.
Ronnie,
Yep.
Walter,
Aye.
and I vote to pay him too.
Heather, thanks for going that extra mile with that. That line item by line item is eye-opening and very helpful.
Mhm. And I'm also gonna make a motion, looks like Heather's asking for 2 more here, for the authorization pay DJ's municipal supply in the amount of $528.93 for jackets and stuff.
Okay, do I have a second on that?
Second.
Any discussion on it? No? Then I'll call for a vote. Zell,
Aye.
Ronnie,
Yep.
Aye.
I as well. One more, Zell?
I will make a motion to authorize Heather to pay Interstate Septic the amount of $750.
Second.
Any discussion on that? No? I'll call for a vote. Zell,
Aye.
Ronnie,
All right.
Paul,
Aye.
I as well. Anything else on the bookkeeper's report? No? Well, we've already signed the warrants, I take it, right? Everybody signed the warrants? Okay,
Yeah, you missed one.
and this
You
one?
you missed the second page
Oh, darn it.
on the on one of the Visa cards.
I got the one that didn't have a sticker on it, though.
What?
Got the line that didn't have a sticker on it, though.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I got that one. Well, you'll just have to bring it to me or whatever. I can catch up with you and sign it.
Well, there's another one that all of you didn't sign except for one person.
Oh,
What are we gonna do with us, guys, huh?
I know. Sorry, Heather.
She'll have to make a stand in the corner.
Oh, and by the way, Bruce, there was a
Yes.
sticker on it.
Was that, what was it?
It was the, the credit card one.
Yeah, because I was looking for it and then I saw a line and had no sticker on it. It's like, where'd that go? So what's your pleasure on the warrants, everybody? Zell, you ready to vote on that?
I am, yes, I vote in favor.
Ronnie,
second,
Walt,
yes, aye.
I too. That passes.
It's the second page of the regular warrant that you guys missed.
Oh,
Oh, boy, we get no
Zell was the
desserts
only
tonight.
one who signed it.
Zell's the only one that gets dessert. The rest of us been bad.
Sorry,
you shall
guys.
have no, we shall have no pie.
Nope. Okay, under correspondence. Everybody has seen and read the letter from Thomaston in regards to changing our fiscal year.
Yep.
Yes, Walt? On that, Walt?
Oh, you're asking me to weigh in?
Yeah. You
I have a
bought
lot.
good, huh?
I have a lot of thoughts on this.
Okay.
First of all, I think it absolutely makes sense. I talked to Skip yesterday, and he thinks it absolutely makes sense. But here, to me, we need to do some stuff. I was all excited when I found out that the bylaws said that the four of us could change the fiscal year anytime we wanted by amending the bylaws. However, the fiscal year is also specified in the interlocal agreement, which would imply town meetings to put a warrant together to change that. But before we do that, and we have time to do that, we should ask Patrick whether the bylaw can apply in spite of the fact that what the interlocal agreement says. But regardless, Thomaston and South Thomaston both will have their town meetings. So to me, the optimal situation, but we have to figure out whether this is doable. And that starts with a conversation with Mindy Sear, our auditor. What South Thomaston did last year when we converted from calendar to fiscal year was right from the get-go, we put an 18-month budget together. We're running under that 18-month budget now. And the 18-month budget will end on June 30th, 2022, and then we'll be on a July 1st to June 30th fiscal year. We had the advantage of knowing in advance that we were going to do that. So instead of doing our calendar year budget last year, we did the 18-month budget. What we actually did, though, was a 12-month budget and an 18-month budget, which is what we gave our budget makers. This is all really doesn't apply to us. So the question for Mindy is, to me, the optimal situation would be to do the cutover on July 1st, 2022, because that will work out best for the three towns, given that we've whacked them with a 24%, 23.5% assessment increase. But there may be accounting rules, GSAB, government accounting rules, whatever. Mindy will tell us whether that's possible. And then we have to assess what Heather will have to do in order to affect that change during that period of time. So those are unanswered questions. What I'd also suggest, regardless, is that we take a look at our ability to bill the towns between now and August, and I'll tell you why I say August, at last year's assessment. And then pick up this year's assessment in the back half of calendar year 2022. Because that will fit with their fiscal year. So they'll be able, the three towns will be able to budget between now and July for the increased assessment that they're going to incur, and be spared the increase that we've put on them. Now, what we have to do is figure out what that's going to do to our cash flow. I mean, in theory, we're no different from the schools and the county, you know, where you can wade in and just drop a bomb on the three towns. But when the county does it and when the schools do it, they don't live in the community and we do. So that's something that I would suggest that we take a good, careful look at very, very quickly. And I'm not sure how to approach this between me and Heather, but again, the optimal situation would be spare the town the first 6 or 7 months of the year of the new assessment until they do their budgets. And then they can budget for the increase in the back half of the year. Now, Heather thinks that I'm smoking. I think by her body language, she might think that I'm smoking something, but I'm not.
So just one question on that. We've already sent out the bills. Have we already received payment?
Yeah, I signed the South Thomaston check last week.
Okay.
And you know, my board was about as thrilled as yours was to get that increase.
Yeah.
And that's why I say August. So
No, I think
they've already paid July. They've already paid January. So let's let them have July to make up for January, if we can do that. We may not be able to. We might not be able to make our obligations without that extra money. Although if we don't spend the $50,000 in contingency until the back end of the year, then that could take care of that.
I think that's a great suggestion. So I support you guys looking into that. I don't know if you're making a motion or.
No, I'm just throwing that out as we have to go and look at, you know, what our monthly expenses are, what our monthly cash requirements are, how much of that is satisfied by would be satisfied by last year's assessment income as opposed to this year's, and see what happens there. And to me, it's like make every effort to alleviate that pain, because I know that you heard it probably louder than any of us, from what I understand.
And they pay the biggest percentage, that's why.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You're welcome.
Ronnie will be happy to hear this. Coincidental with all of this, I've come full circle on the hauler fee. I was convinced to go up $50,000 a year from now until forever, because I considered the constituency of people who can't physically go to the transfer station. And I happen to live in the town with the 4th or 5th oldest population in the state. Then I found out that I don't know any elderly people that sign up for the hauler services. Everybody I know either doesn't want to do it or is a landlord, like Skip. So when we take this 24% assessment increase to our 3 towns and start the inquisition, one of the first things out of some people's mouths is going to be, how come the haulers get this incredible break when in every other town they pay a gazillion dollars for the privilege? So I'm in the camp of, as part of this process of heading towards a new fiscal year, the hauler fee becomes a minimum of $1,000 a year. And then when we get the scale in place, we might consider charging them on the basis of tonnage. But that's down the road. Like I said, I'm going to make Ronnie mad about the snow and mad at me. And you know what, Ronnie? When you say that you're just going to pass that on to your customers, I used to feel bad about that. Now I don't.
Yeah.
because they're getting a tax break basically at my expense.
There's
Question,
someone,
Walt.
there's someone who's just wanted to enter our meeting called Try.
That's TRI. That's Scott.
Okay,
Yeah.
I just wanted to put that on the record, and I will let him into the meeting.
Walt, I got a question for you. Why do you feel that's giving them a break?
Giving who a break?
You made the comment that, you know, the clientele of his is getting a break. Why do you say that?
Well, okay. So I have always felt that that the primary constituency of the haulers, the in-town haulers, were people who were old, infirm, and at the same time, they all paid property taxes. And many of them were on fixed incomes. So I always, every time Ronnie said, if you raise my fees, I'm just going to pass it on to the users, I felt bad at doing that. But now I don't feel so bad because
What do you, I guess my question, Walt, is who do you think his users are?
Well, I think his users probably fall into 2 or 3 categories. They are people who, for one reason or another, again, are old and infirm and can't go to the transfer station, or it's exceptionally difficult, or they are Skip Cannell. I hate to use people's names on a meeting like this, but landlords. And what the landlord does is he doesn't want his tenants, his renters, to have to go to the transfer station. So he has the Ronnies of the world come pick up their garbage. Then there are my next door neighbor and the people down the street and another person that I know who just don't want to be bothered. And what is, I don't know what you charge, Ronnie, but I understand the other guy charges like $5 a month or $5 a week. Do you know what that is? I mean, that's like, pretty soon we're going to be paying $5 a gallon for gasoline. So I'm no longer sympathetic to any of those constituencies, especially, if Ronnie is right, that he'd just if we raised his fee to $1,000, he'd pass it on to his customers and we'd see how many people stop being his customers. And I don't think it would be particularly elastic. I don't think he'd lose a lot of business. But I don't know his business all that well, but
I disagree.
You do. Okay.
Yeah.
And I guess I just gotta kind of make one comment on that. The categories that you listed, all of those categories but one are taxpayers to the town, and they pay the taxes in to dispose of this.
Right.
Except for the renters. Obviously, they did not pay a realtor's tax or anything on that. But if they do have a vehicle or whatnot in the town, they paid registration fees and stuff. So they have paid into our system. The question is the difference between how that stuff gets there. So really, the trash hauler is not getting a sweetheart deal. The trash was paid for by the taxpayers in the first place. All he's doing is transporting it. So if you drive that cost up, that person that has to pay him to haul that is going to pay a higher cost to dispose of their trash versus their neighbor that chooses to haul it themselves and save that money, and all of which paid into the tax base.
I know I've voted 3 years in a row in along those lines.
Yeah.
3 years or 4 years, however long I've been around.
The other thing,
Now, however, we're going to go up between 3 select boards. They're going to inquisition us about a 24% increase in their assessments. And they're going to say, did you take a look at every single expense item? And are you really justifying every one of these? And oh, by the way, on the revenue side, have you really looked at, are you competitive? Are you competitive on the expense side? And are you at market on the revenue side? And I'm convinced that the answer will be that we are not competitive on the revenue side with the haulers.
Well, let me give you an example.
And you know what? Give me the facts to stand in the way of my strongly held opinion. Because I'm always,
St. George doesn't charge anything.
they don't charge anything.
They do not charge anything. I do not have to pay anything to dump because it's all included in their taxes.
Right, okay.
Walterboro charges me $75.
and I believe the information that Paul had just sent out about the 5 towns, there was no truckers fees in there. Basically, that's because they're making their money up in the pay-per-throw system.
Right.
But it's not a pay-per-throw for truckers only. That's a pay-per-throw for everybody. They sell bags. So the residential people that are hauling their own trash into the facility are paying the same amount of money as the trash hauls. It's figured in by what the bag will hold.
Right, but when I read that, I think they're charging the Ronnies of the world a per ton fee.
Yeah, that's the key.
Camden charges everybody a ton fee. If you don't have the bags, you go over the scales and they charge you.
Okay, that same thing.
Which in most cases is the way it works. You're not singling out a single type of transportation, how the material gets there, or a type of individuals that decide that how they want to conduct business. Everybody pays. And before, when we had this discussion, legal had told us you really can't just single out any particular person or class of people. Even though the bylaws did say that we could charge one thing but not another, it was highly not advised to do that because it's unfair. It's either a pay per system or it isn't. Rockland, for instance, there's a 3 different pay scale there. They tried to implement a paper bag and it blew up in their face, just like it has for years on end. So what they did is there's a paper bag. If you like that system, you pay per bag. If you don't like that system, you haul a trash hauler and they pay per ton.
Mhm.
Or you can buy an astronomically higher price sticker, which covers it anyhow. So they have 3 pay scales there, but it's fair across the board. They don't single out any particular person.
Yeah, okay, this is not something we have to decide tonight.
No, and it's not even on the agenda, but
That if we do a 18-month budget, or if we do a 6-month budget and then a 12-month, if we change the fiscal year, and again, optimally, we would do it on July 1st, 2022, this will be part of that discussion. And, I might be 5 to 1. And all I'm saying is that I have a different view of that subject now than I have for the last 3 years. But so I had a strong opinion, and Ronnie and you, Bruce, just laid some facts out. And when you have a strong opinion and you're up against the facts, usually the facts win, except in U.S. politics.
well, again, you have a difference of opinion and you've stated some issues, some concerns and stuff. And I'm really, truly, genuinely interested in hearing them because I'm trying to get my head around how people are deriving at their opinions or what they want. So that's basically why I'm asking you some of these tough questions. Maybe they're not so tough. I'm just plain asking you questions. I'm not disagreeing with you in any way. I'm just trying to get a handle on why people feel that way.
Mhm.
It's an opportunity for you as well to maybe even change my mind if I so happen to disagree with you at the moment.
Well, between the two of you, you've caused me to back off and go really think through my position again.
This is the way it works.
I have a lot of time to do that.
So getting back on topic here with the discussion of the fiscal year, we've laid out some obstacles and some hurdles that we need to cover. So is that where we want to go with that, is start working on those hurdles?
Yeah, my suggestion is Heather and I and anybody else that wants to join us, set up a Zoom call with Mindy as soon as we can. Because she might she might say, no, you have to start the process in January of 2023 and run it out 18 months like we had to do in South Thomaston.
Right.
Yeah, she might say that there are a whole lot of accounting reasons for doing it that way. I would hope that she doesn't say that, but yeah. So to me, the two things are Patrick to tell us, must we have 3 town meetings to change the interlocal agreement, and then what does Mindy say from the accounting perspective, and then our insurance is MMA.
Yeah,
So we'll have to look at how we deal with that, because those are the 3 big things we had to do in South Thomaston in order to make the change. And I will tell you that when we first started, we were scared to death. And when we got all done, we said, how could this have been why was this so easy? Now, a part of how easy it was that the overwhelming majority of our citizens, their attitude was, what took you so long to do this? So the person no matter what we do here, the person in the firing line is going to be Heather. I just don't know how much fire she's going to have to take. Mindy will tell us that.
Yeah. Well, in the meantime, I'm working with Patrick on things anyhow, so I can run that by him at that point to get his take on that, if that's what you want. So I could start that hurdle for you. Yeah,
the language in the language is really weird, because it says in the interlocal agreement that the board, and in the bylaws, that the board has the ability to make an amendment on any item
Right.
by a simple vote, which says that we could vote to change it, but then the interlocal agreement specifies the fiscal year. So
Right.
So
There's several gray areas in that interlocal agreement versus the bylaws. They don't always necessarily jive the same way. An attempt about 3 or 4 years ago to straighten some of that out just kind of blew up in our face.
Don't I remember?
So, and it basically, I brought this up. It was supposed to be cut and dry, real simple. I caught some of this stuff. Says we need to get this together. So I wanted the whole board to review it. And that way the rest of the board members would also become familiar with the document. One thing led to another, and it turned out to be a huge disaster. So, there is some inconsistencies there.
Okay, so are we clear that the first 2 action items are, actually the third action item is that I think we should respond to all 3 towns that we have taken this as a significant action item. We're going to pursue it because we think it makes sense, A, for us, but also for them.
Correct.
More
That's
importantly, it makes sense for them.
Is that all agreeable?
Definitely.
Okay. Makes sense to me too. Now, just a question, who's going to write that letter?
I think Walt should write it.
I'm the secretary of the corporation.
No, I just think
I'll third that motion.
you've been through it, so I think your insight is really important. So
I'm the logical heir to, I'm the physical heir to Jan Gaudio, who, next to my wife, is the best writer, business writer I've ever known.
Excellent.
So I will try to live up to those lofty standards.
Okay, so I guess we're all set with 13A. We got an action plan in play. How about any and all business to come before this board? Yeah.
When I was on the phone with Skip the other day, and he might have mentioned this, our scrap dogs contract is up for renewal,
Mhm.
and he just asked me to mention it. I don't know what it entails to renew it, but I wasn't sure if that's something we have to vote on, or maybe at next meeting we would address.
That depends on what the contract is. I suppose we got to vote on it either way, even if it hasn't changed. I mean, it's a new contract. You know, you would think that where the contract's running out, they would approach us with a new one, but if not, and there's interest in continuing this program, we probably should reach out to them and let them know the contract is running out. They need to submit a new one.
It's already run out.
It's already run out. Okay.
Hang on, I can find out where it is.
Okay.
It ran out in. Let's see. Well, contract terms. It ran out the 31st of January, 2021.
Oh my goodness, we've been a year without a contract.
Wow.
Well, we might want to contact them and see about what the plans are and if they want to issue a new contract.
Yeah, I think it's a great service. I don't use it myself, but I've heard from a lot of people who use the facility that they really like it. So.
Okay. Does anybody want to volunteer to contact them? No? Okay. I will make a note of it and see if I can get a hold of them.
Under prior circumstances, all eyes would have turned to Gordon Page.
Well, yes, that's because that was his was the liaison to them. He actually introduced us to him. So, but Gordon's not here anymore. Any other business?
Just
Yes.
just one other, just a admin thing. In terms of our meetings, like these videos, because we're recording our meeting right now, I was going to suggest, I was going to start a Vimeo account, which is like YouTube, but without the ads, and put our meetings on there so people can watch them. But I thought it would be appropriate perhaps that we would vote on that, or I just wanted to sort of ask, well, how's the best way to share our public meetings with the public?
Well, I don't know.
I know in Thomaston, we use a service, but it only works if we're in the room. I think South Thomaston uses YouTube, which is another option. Owl's Head, I think, uses YouTube.
Yeah, I believe so.
So we could also do YouTube. I go to Vimeo over YouTube because it doesn't have the ads and it's a little less commercial maybe, but yeah.
Is it
Free?
well, every time I've ever used it, it doesn't seem to be a problem. And so the school board, RSU 13, I think, uses it. Maybe the commissioners use it as well. And yes, we in South Thomaston, we have this kludge that links Zoom to YouTube, which I've been trying to get rid of for 3 years. But yeah, so I guess to me, is Vimeo less accessible to the average person than YouTube? And if it's less accessible, how much less?
Yeah, good question. Maybe YouTube's the easiest. I'm happy. I mean, I think what I would recommend is I will create a YouTube account for our board, and I will put them up there, and they'll be public, and we can share those on our 3-town web, or send links to them. However, each town wants to distribute them, but maybe YouTube is the better option. I think it's owned by Google, so it's more searchable, let's say.
Right. And it is owned by Google.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure. I think Vimeo is independent, but who knows?
Anything else? If there is none, the next scheduled meeting, other than the 3-town meeting for February 11th, our regular business meeting is for February 24th. Perhaps maybe we can fire out an email this weekend and maybe get a date for a quick Zoom meeting for to put together some kind of presentation for the 3-town meetings. Unless you want to try to set a date right now.
I mean, if Fridays are the best days, we could do next Friday.
Okay.
Just
February 4th. That's
Correct.
good,
yeah.
because my Thursday conflict that existed all year long has gone away. It's now a Monday conflict. Don't ask me to do anything on Mondays.
So would you like to do Thursday then? Is that better? The 3rd?
Either or is fine with me.
I would prefer a Thursday. If you can do it.
Okay. That day works for me.
Ron,
I'm good.
good for what?
Thursday.
Thursday?
Yeah.
When's Skip coming back?
The 2nd, so he should be back Wednesday. Is that not correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thursday's what date?
Thursday's the 3rd.
February 3rd.
The 3rd. He's gonna love us for that. He's coming back and he's gonna go right into a meeting.
We'll be ready.
Ready. Okay, so what do you want to do? 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock?
We do 11:30.
What was that
At
again?
night?
Can we do
At night?
11:30 at night?
11:30?
Yeah.
If you don't mind me snoring.
Normally I work Thursdays.
Oh,
I
that's
will
right.
try.
Well,
I will try to
actually-
get it off.
Unless you, actually, we really don't need you there for that meeting because we're just setting up for the 3-town meeting. We're just trying to put a package
I
together.
thought anytime you guys got together, you had to have me there.
Not necessarily. This is work session. Zell or somebody can take notes for that, but I mean, we're just setting up a meeting type thing for.
And we're going to Zoom it.
Presentation.
So we're going to Zoom it, so we'll record it.
Yeah, it'll be a workshop. Is that what we'll call it?
Yeah.
It basically
Work
is,
session.
yes. And if you got some input, you can certainly email us to it or whatever. No? I mean, we're not trying to keep you out of the picture if you got suggestions.
You just send me the information after the fact.
All right. Well, you got something to say?
Huh? You talking to me?
Yeah,
No.
your box lit up, so I didn't know if you was trying to get my attention.
Oh, I was going to make a motion to adjourn.
Oh, that'll get my attention. Do I have a second?
I will second.
All those in favor, you know the drill.
Aye.
Aye.
See ya.
Yeah.
See ya.
Good night. Thank you.